There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about, obviously, some of the worst sea-based crimes since what happened to Ariel.
Who?
The Littlest Mermaid. But from last I saw, she wasn't so little to me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're going to start this whole thing with talking about how attractive you think the Little Mermaid is.
I'm just saying
Which one?
That's not how I want
I want to know which one.
It just kind of went there. I didn't mean to be there. But
I'm a flounder man myself.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He loves a bottom feeder. But guys,
Put your eyes on one side. Let me slide underneath. Slither on top of my body, you little yellow and blue fuck.
this is what I didn't want to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to make the announcement that I'm taking the payout from the CIA.
I
I am leaving the show.
Okay.
Yes, but thankfully I was. Obviously, CIA gave me the payout. I
That's
took
cool.
it. I was going to go. Thankfully, last second, right before, I mean this, in the seconds before we were going to record, I was walking out. You guys were trying to stop me. I just got the contract in from the NSA. I'm locked in for another 10 years.
Wow, so you're with them now.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
great.
great,
Perfect.
yes.
And to all of our listeners out there, keep fighting the good fight, you motherfuckers out there. And the horrible landscape that we find ourselves in at this very moment. Welcome to the last podcast on the left, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Marcus Parks. I'm here with Henry.
Hey.
NSA Zabrowski.
And let me just tell you, we're listening. We're holding space for the American people.
Don't the people of the NSA have to shut up?
Yeah, that's kind of...
Sometimes, if you make so much noise, you make people think they can't be heard.
Yes.
And the man asking the logical questions here, Ed Larson.
Hello, yes, and I believe in God now. Because I have to legally, apparently.
Oh, well, according yes, thank you. But you know what's really funny about this story is that it's really going to stress that.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of parallels in this story. But before we get back into the tale of the Batavia, we'd like to clear something up that confused us back in episode 1.
Yeah.
If you'll remember, before Upper Merchant Pelsart was put in charge of the Batavia, he had accidentally contributed to the death of a noblewoman in India when she drank a bottle of clove oil in his room just before they had sex.
Yeah, it happens.
Every day.
Yeah, and we had no idea why Pelsart would have a bottle of clove oil present. But a helpful listener filled us in. Remember that Pelsart was a horny little devil.
Yes.
And apparently, clove oil has been used for centuries as a sexual lubricant.
Okay.
Particularly for anal sex.
So that's why you used the term that the listener filled us in.
Yes.
Unintentional pun, but I like it.
I'm packed jammed with information in my ass.
That makes sense, yeah. And sailors love anal sex historically.
Well, clove oil is slippery, and it's a natural analgesic. Well, am I pronouncing that right? Analgesic?
I don't fucking know.
I don't know. But that means
Fuck juice.
Yes, thank you, Eddie.
Well, that means that it numbs whatever tissue it comes in contact with. These properties make it among the best anal lubes around. And in fact, clove oil is still used in anal lubrication products today. The preferred brand for many being Swiss Navy, or so I've been told.
And you know how much the Swiss love holes.
That's the Dutch.
Well, but did Swiss? Oh, but you said the
Cheese.
Swiss Navy. Yeah, the
Cheese.
cheese.
Oh, I
It's
was
a cheese joke.
I was thinking about sticking fingers in the dikes.
Yeah, I was thinking about
No.
ass sex. I was thinking about fucking ass and mouths.
Yeah,
You
things
can do that.
Yeah.
I do think what's also nice about clove oil is after you're done doing it, right, and you ram or jam, right, either the little cabin boy or the noblewoman there.
Either one, yeah.
Right afterwards, she smells like Christmas.
Wow, that's nice.
Nice spice.
Yeah, because pine trees, they don't really use that much.
No.
That's a bad lubricant.
No, if you're using a pine cone, you are not in charge.
So now that we got that out of the way, let's return to the Batavia.
Yay! For finally some good news.
When we last left the doomed ship, it had been shipwrecked for 4 days on a reef 50 miles off the western coast of Australia. Once the Batavia was deemed a loss, the survivors took refuge on a chain of mostly barren islands called Houtman's Abrolhos. Chiefly, the Batavia had rammed into the reef at full speed because its captain, Ariana Jacobs, had become wrapped up in a mutiny plot with VOC undermerchant Jeronimus Cornelisz. He had therefore missed the ever-important turn north to the West Indies island of Java, where the VOC had set up its corporate colonial capital.
He's doing the LA thing where they say like north, south, east, west, right, for on a thing, and that doesn't make any sense to anyone. In my mind, it's left. It's like he's making that left.
Yeah,
He's got
left
that's all he had
is
to do.
north.
Yeah.
I know, but I say left because that's how I understand it. I don't understand north.
You don't understand north?
I actually brought this up to
Actually,
Natalie.
my wife also doesn't understand directions
I
either.
don't. Yeah, I want to talk about this really quick right before you go into this.
Very
I just want to ask this just straight up. I know we're beginning this at the very beginning of the episode, and this is really fucking dragging us, right? But is the North Pole the top of the Earth?
Oh, fuck
and is
you.
the South Pole
Good
the
God.
bottom of the Earth?
God.
Or does that not matter in that question?
What do you mean does not matter?
Is North top
Yes!
and
Yeah.
South bottom?
Yeah.
Why?
What else would it be?
What do you
South
mean
could be
what?
top.
Not a-
It's just south.
The Earth doesn't rotate that way.
What do you mean?
The Earth rotates around this way,
In
not
a circle.
like this.
I
Yeah.
think doesn't it kind of go back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, sort of, but it still rotates the same way.
What if sun's upside down?
Doesn't matter what.
If
The sun's
what
a
if the
circle.
Milky Way is upside down?
Oh my God! This whole fucking thing's derailed immediately. You're not allowed to lead a ship.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're going to be fucking putting us right. You put us into the reef of a fucking North Pole conversation.
I'm a chef. All right, I would be the boat chef. I would be the boat main prostitute to the women, in order for the men that are infertile and looking to impregnate a woman on the boat.
Well,
So the men pay you to fuck their wives.
Yes, I'm a cum donor by cash.
Yes, the cooker.
Thank you.
Well, back to the Batavia. After upper merchant Francisco Pelsart spent 4 days searching for fresh water to no avail, in addition to directing the retrieval of as much VOC loot as could be recovered, he decided, as the man in charge of the expedition, that the VOC's best interest would be served if he left to get help in Java on the Batavia's best lifeboat. And so, on June 8, 1628, Upper Merchant Pelsart took the ship's best sailors and a handful of the Batavia's paying customers and pushed off with 48 people all told.
Now, this is the last we're going to hear of Pelsart today.
Yep, on this episode.
Because so he goes to look for water, and we don't know if he's going to come back.
Yeah, he goes and he's also going to try and go to Java and see what happens up there.
Hey, absolutely.
There was, however, still the issue of the brewing mutiny, which Pelsart had sussed out after the mutineers' pathetic attempt to get him to punish the entire crew by attacking his crush with a bucket of feces and tar while wearing disguises.
But I liked her. But now she got dookie on her. But I think that, and it shows Pelsart's real love for her in the end. Is that?
Does it? Because he left her on the island to die.
But he did wipe the poo-poo off of her. And he still looked at her and
Just
said,
because you got a napkin doesn't mean you love somebody.
I'm just saying, I think it's refreshing that he wiped the Duke off of her and said, you know what? You're still cute. And I think that's one of the bravest things that a captain can say.
Not cute enough to take to Java.
Nope.
Well, he didn't want people to fight over her on the boat.
Yeah, well, but so he left her with all the rapacious fucking sailors and seamen?
I think he was like, we'll figure this out later. Let's put a pin in this.
But while there had been anywhere between 8 and 18 men involved in the mutiny before the shipwreck, the only two mutineers Pelsart had positively pegged were Captain Ariana Jacobs and the boatswain. And yes, we're now well aware that the word boatswain is generally pronounced bosun. I, however, am of the opinion that pronouncing it bosun robs the word of its magic, because I love saying boatswain.
It's a better word.
Boatswain's
fun
a
word.
much better word.
Than bosun.
Yeah, than bosun.
It's just what the word is, how it's pronounced.
No,
but
that's
it's
how-
spelled boatswain. It's because it's British and they're difficult on purpose.
That's how it's generally pronounced. It can also be pronounced boatswain. So I suppose I'll just have to endure the chuckles of all our seamen out there.
Yes.
Because for me, it'll always be boatswain.
Because you know how big we are amongst sailors. Very big amongst the sailing community. Lots of sailors listen, lots of men, lots of admirals.
We have a ton of listeners in the Navy.
It's true.
A ton. So I'm sorry, Navy people, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with boatswain.
Well, it came from a lot of people watch that show Below Deck.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Nope.
So that's not a reality TV show that we have ever touched. And the bosun on that one apparently got canceled.
I see.
Yeah, so I guess that's how they all know the word bosun.
Also, if you're in the Navy, just let me know if you need me to send you some clove oil.
Because it sounds like, honestly, it's really, really. I heard that song.
But since Pelsart knew the captain and the boatswain were a part of the mutiny plot, he decided to keep his enemies close and ordered them to join him on the rescue mission to Java. With their mutineers still scattered, the captain and the boatswain had no choice but to comply and face whatever fate awaited them at the VOC colonial capital. Now, Upper Merchant Pelsart told everyone before leaving that he would try as hard as he could to find a source of fresh water and replenish the island's supplies before ultimately making his way to Java 2,000 miles north. Well, this gave survivors a tiny bit of hope that they weren't being abandoned completely, because the water was already gone when Pelsart left, and there was no small number of people stranded on this barren strip of dirt. The survivors left behind were a motley crew of 270 people, a mix of hard-bitten seamen and soldiers, tradesmen like the carpenters and the ship's surgeon, paying passengers both male and female, the children of those passengers, lots of cabin boys, and a number of VOC officers like Jeronimus Cornelisz.
Can those paying customers get a refund?
I would hope so, but I would imagine, knowing the VOC, they probably signed a document before they left saying that shipwreck would not result in a refund.
Yeah, like a release. I bet you there was some form of agreement.
Yeah.
Fucking Dutch.
Right? Right? I don't even know, man. Just stay with the windmills.
Now, we said at the end of the last episode that Jeronimus Cornelisz was left in charge after Upper Merchant Pelsart left the islands. But that's not entirely accurate in the sense that Pelsart explicitly gave Jeronimus the authority to give orders to the survivors. In fact, Jeronimus wasn't even the most senior VOC officer left behind. Pelsart had also abandoned his personal clerk and the Batavia's provost. A provost, in case you didn't know, that's the guy that's like, he's sort of the security chief in charge of keeping the sailors in line. He's not high ranking, but he's not above the boatswain, but kind of right below the boatswain.
Okay.
But he's like, he's a jerk
cop.
off. Yeah, he's the AD.
Yeah. Yeah, he's for all the military people, he's basically an MP.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But that being said, Jeronimus was given authority over what little supplies were left. So while he didn't start with explicit control, he was given the means to consolidate power and manipulate survivors. It would, however, take Jeronimus a few days to realize just how big of an opportunity this really was.
Because also they had no idea how long Pelsart was going to be gone.
No.
When he left, they thought maybe, for a second, maybe we'll find water right over there. Maybe there's Australia. Maybe it's right there. Like they've talked about, they knew that there were places, that there were people living out here, that maybe we can find one. And for 2,000 miles, after you've already traveled from fucking Netherlands, like, it's really not that far. So Java's actually kind of gettable. Like they are, like, it's really, really close. And so Jeronimus knows just a little bit that if Pelsart comes back, he's also going to come back with a whole army of dudes as well.
Yeah, also it's like this, he's also probably going to die on this trip. It's a rowboat 2,000 miles.
Yeah. It's very
Bad odds. Low odds. Yeah. But Jeronimus also knows that Pelsart took all of the best sailors. So he's got the best minds possible to get him to Java alive. Now, as far as the environment on which these survivors were suddenly stuck, the description given puts one in the mind of a particularly unpleasant version of purgatory.
Yes.
The average rainfall on the Abrolhos Island chain was 4 inches a month, but there were few places for water to pool.
That's what I give my wife. Continue. Sorry, I needed to say it. All right? I'm sorry.
As such, most of the islands were mostly dry and lifeless, barren strips of coral rubble with no hills, no trees, and no caves. Besides a few bushes here and there, these islands were little more than pieces of dirt nestled in a maze of coral that threatened to destroy any boat that dared sail through. And on top of that, There were winds that could reach up to 80 miles an hour, constantly blowing.
It's also kind of crazy because it's really just mounds of dirt in the middle of vast, unconquerable ocean.
Yeah.
So it must be very frightening as a group of 270 people just standing on the very top of the ocean, just like looking around, being like, it's gonna be my birthday next week. Like, what do you do?
Also, the coral's just jagged as fuck. It's rough. It's like very healthy back then. Now coral's fucked.
Yeah.
Now coral's bleached worse than John Stamos's asshole.
Really funny, Eddie. But also, I think that this shows our attack on the coral is not wrong.
Yeah.
And I think partially, yes, this is, these corals need to mind their place.
Yeah. And if
then-
any corals out there listening,
you can go fuck yourself with you trying to get in the way of commerce, okay? Oh, here's one more quart of oil.
Yeah, motherfuckers, you see what happens when you get in the way of commerce.
Yeah, buddy, I'm coming down there with I'm gonna take old school hairspray cans and fill a bunch of crabs' mouths with it.
yeah, I'm just fucking got a hairdryer just blowing the water wicked, making it hot.
Yeah, fart all day.
Yeah, fuck your ass, coral.
Yeah, I'll set myself on fire to make an extra $5.
Great idea.
Yeah, but I do love you, coral. And if you haven't seen a coral reef yet, you should go because it's all going to die in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
It's quite beautiful.
It's gone very soon. Now, while there was little vegetation, the animal life on the islands was actually plentiful, or at least it was when the survivors of the Batavia arrived. Thousands of seabirds and hundreds of seals populated these islands, but there certainly weren't enough to sustain 270 people for the months they expected to be there. Furthermore, the birds introduced a hazard because thousands of birds produce hundreds of pounds of guano, which slicked up every surface and likely splattered the survivors with bird shit on a near constant basis.
Hell yeah.
There's something fun about it. I don't know what it is. It's just something about adding the slick ass shit.
Just constant pratfalls in the middle of this disaster. Well, perhaps worst of all, though, were the noises the birds made.
Whoa.
One of the species who made their home on Houtman's Abrolhos was the mutton bird, notorious for having a call that sounds like what I'd imagine one might hear while being haunted by the ghost of a colicky infant.
Okay.
Constant, never ending.
Sounds like JD Vance on his couch.
Funny. And the couch is going, oh, get off me. Oh, get off me.
Sounds like anal without clove oil.
Yeah. It's called having, have you ever had sex with a dolphin? It's better than having sex with a
Tuna.
Yeah, tuna because of the tight seal.
Now, just before...
You're going to want to get you. All right, we're going to wake up my wife. All right, you're working me hard, all right? You're jangling my rings.
Now, just before leaving Houtman's Abrolhos, Upper Merchant Pelsart had placed 180 survivors on the island that soon came to be known as Batavia's Graveyard, and the breakdown of the island's population was bad news for a large number of those people. In the beginning, almost half of the population on Batavia's Graveyard was as thus: 20 men who had worked as VOC petty officers, coopers, carpenters, and smiths, 21 women, and 40 children. And that, of course, included the numerous cabin boys. Teenagers, mostly. But the tragedy in the population of Batavia's Graveyard lay in the other half, the 100 seamen and soldiers. These men, with few notable exceptions, were violent, rapacious, amoral, and soon to be very thirsty, very hungry, and worst of all, very bored.
I'm bored. You know what they say, if you're boring, then you're a boring person. I've heard that before. But we're kind of really fucked out here, though, right? Yeah, I'm bored. You ever notice if you look at a boy long enough, it becomes a full-grown woman? I've played that game before.
That's why I want to kill it so bad.
I didn't know what it was that I was feeling, And then I was looking at it, and I got a little smell of my favorite spice.
Oh, we're saved. I found my Connect 4 game.
Yarrrr! I lost one of the pieces. Let's cut off one of the boy's nipples.
But honestly, though, why didn't they, I don't know, make checkers out of rocks or something? They had time.
Dude, there's something about total freedom.
Yeah.
And unmoored from all societal bounds.
Now, without the might of their company behind them, the VOC petty officers had no real authority over the soldiers and sailors on Batavia's graveyard, so they fell back on protocol to see if they could keep the rougher members of the crew from surrendering to their basest instincts immediately. As was VOC custom, the officers formed a council with the ship's surgeon at its head, because the surgeon was well liked by everyone on board. But the council was then filled with other men of status like the provost, Pelsart's clerk, and the minister who was traveling to Java with his family. To represent the soldiers, the council allowed just one man, a corporal, to speak with their voice.
I'm here for the soldiers and the sailors, and I speak with the same voice as every single one of them. You heard me. You have heard the rest.
Putting together committees, however, didn't solve the problem of water. Most of the fresh water that Captain Jacobs had salvaged from the shipwreck was gone by the fourth day, and 10 people died from dehydration soon after.
260. Just keep that counter going.
I know, we really do need a counter.
Yes.
Or like a stamp every time someone dies, like on the side of a wagon.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, whenever they slaughter somebody, they stamp it on the side.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's because the number of people on the island is going to get very important.
Yes. Well, while they were dying of thirst, some drank their urine, others unadvisedly drank seawater, and it's very likely, we've seen this happen many a time on our shipwreck series, that they drank the blood from the seabirds and the adorable sea lions that were all wiped out within days of humans being introduced into their environment.
What month is it again?
June.
Oh, well, you're not supposed to drink sea lion blood in a month that doesn't have an R in it. Did you know that? Yeah. So basically, from September to April, you can drink sea lion blood. Otherwise, it spoils too much.
It can't. It's bad. It's out of season.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, this is in the southern hemisphere, right?
Yeah, it does change. Things do change.
Oh, so they were probably fine. I don't know why.
I don't know.
I guess they're just weak.
They really might be very weak. But it also kind of is a big rundown of just how humanity, as we spread across the continents, what we did to every single animal and plant life that we encountered, where they talk about how in Australia, when we first arrived to Australia, there used to be 10 to 12-foot wombats that were so big and fat and delicious and so innocent, they had no idea what the fuck it was that we were there for, and then we ate the living fuck out of them out of existence.
Yeah.
And those seals probably were because they're fine, and then all of a sudden you got this pink guy shows up, and you're like, first you're like,
just having a good time.
Yeah. And then
It's
he's
like,
killing
would you like a barrel? I found this barrel.
And then all of a sudden you didn't know you invited Hitler into your sea town, and you didn't know that there was going to be a culling of you and your kind.
That's the same thing that happened with the dodo. They say that the dodo was famously dumb. The dodo was not famously dumb. The dodo was just very friendly.
Yes. Yeah. Would just walk right up to him. You're like, I'm delicious.
Cut your fucking head off.
And they would marinate it in kisses.
Oh, yeah, dude. Just fucking do shit where they bite a chunk out of its ass and throw the rest of it away. Just going there's so many of them. Who gives a fucking shit?
Honestly, though, I would give anything to eat dodo meat.
Oh,
That's
God.
one of my big dreams.
Yeah.
Well, soon enough, the problem of freshwater was solved when storms rolled in. The survivors used sailcloth to catch the rainwater, and subsequently caught enough with each rainfall to at least save themselves from death by dehydration. Rations were still, however, very low. Meanwhile, as people were dying of thirst on Batavia's graveyard, there were still 70 morons trying to ride out the disaster by staying on the rapidly deteriorating corpse of the Batavia.
Just throwing gold at each other and shit.
Still, literally. Yeah. That moronic crew included Jeronimus Cornelisz, who seemingly still had not taken up the responsibility of being in charge of the supplies.
You know what I actually equate that to? it's a little bit of trying to retain a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, maybe.
And just being like, we'll just stay on the boat until if the boat's here, let's stay on the boat. It feels reassuring to be inside of the boat.
I can understand that. But regardless, Jeronimus and his fellow idiots stayed on the Batavia for over a week after the crash. Because at least if it is, I know it's comforting, but it's still fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah,
because
it is
the boat's gonna, is gonna fucking deteriorate.
There's something that is deeply delusional.
Delusional. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
That you are just kind of, maybe it'll all work out.
Whatever happened to the captain has to be the last one off. And is that like a newer thing than this? Because he's already halfway to Java.
Well, I think if the ship is like just sort of stuck, then there's no, like, it would be ridiculous to just say like, all right, you're going to have to stay here maybe another week or two before this thing goes down.
I wish I could get off this boat. Listen, all right? I'm the last person's on it. I wish I could come over there and help you. I see that you're all being systematically tortured, raped, and murdered on that island over there, but my hands are tied. It's this railing. I can't pass the railing or I get fired.
Rise from your grave.
Well, on June 12th, the Batavia finally broke apart under the pressure of the waves and its near constant contact with the reef that had sunk it. Out of the 70 men who stayed on the ship, 42 drowned when it sank.
Morons.
Remember, only one guy in 7 on this ship can swim. And Jeronimus Cornelisz was one of those guys who couldn't swim. When the Batavia collapsed, he grabbed a piece of wood and drifted in the ocean for 2 days before washing up on an island.
We were this close.
Yeah, almost. And you also got to ask, like, what that did to his mental state as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably got brain damage a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's just once he survived, what does it fucking matter now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, God must have chosen him to survive.
And also, I will now do anything to not be caught in that situation again.
Oh, yeah.
But what keeps fucking me up about this whole thing is how do only 1 in 7 people know how to swim? It's not like swimming is a privilege.
If I remember correctly, I think it has something to do with like swimming being associated with disease during this time period.
Oh, okay.
Because
you can
if
get sick.
Yeah, getting sick. Well, because, if you lived in a city, every body of water around you was filled with human feces and urine.
Yeah,
so,
the Amsterdam Canal is probably not the best to be swimming in.
I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't. But I tell you what, though, I took a couple of sips and I tripped harder than any fucking mushroom I had that entire fucking city, man. You want to that's where the high is, and that fucking town is.
Well, the disintegration of the Batavia ended up being a blessing. Along with the 28 nitwits, barrels containing 500 gallons of fresh water and 500 gallons of wine washed up on the island shores.
Ooh.
Once recovered, the men put the supplies in a central storage area, and by Upper Merchant Pelsart's orders, Jeronimus Cornelisz was finally put in charge of everything that kept the survivors alive. The recovered supplies, however, weren't anywhere near plentiful enough to sustain everyone. There were now 208 people left alive.
Think about it. All right, so now we're at 208.
Okay.
Yeah, we started at 270. Now we're at 200. It's a week later and we're at 208.
62 in a week.
Yeah. And even if they all lived on half rations, they still needed to consume 3 tons of meat and well over 1,000 gallons of water every month. The seabirds and sea lions were also, as I said, all gone, meaning that what they'd recovered would last the survivors no more than a week before they would have to begin the discussion about the C word.
Come.
Yeah.
It's just sitting there, guys. People ask, Henry, do you write the material? How hard do you work on this? And it's just right there.
Well, I mean, really, when I wrote that, there were 2 options for which C word you were going to choose. And you went with the least likely one, and I commend you for that.
That's the least likely one?
Come? Yeah.
Cum is like, there's like a whole, when you watch the stream, it's like a catchphrase.
Yeah,
Almost.
but the most famous C word.
What?
Cunt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is cunt?
It's
yeah.
famously called the C word.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah.
Ye old cunt. Now, see you next Tuesday. Come on the stream. It's live on Tuesday.
Is cunt more popular than cum?
No. No, popular.
When you refer to the C word, most people don't think cum.
Oh, no.
No, you know what I actually mostly refer to? You know that first thing I think of? Congress.
Whoa! Take a lap. Whoa!
He's dabbing. He's dabbing. For those of you, he's taking off his headphones and he's dabbing. No, the C word is cannibalism.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, more despair was introduced when it became clear that the rescue expedition was not going to return with more fresh water. And that's if Pelsart and his men weren't already dead themselves. These mounting issues soon became too overwhelming for the ship surgeon to handle as leader of the island council.
I fucking handle this shit, man. I can flop a couple of lungs around. I can fucking play with your liver a bunch and play with your dead lips. But that's it for me, man. That's as much as I can handle.
So, to share the load, he turned to the man in charge of the supplies, Jeronimus Cornelisz. And with dizzying speed, Jeronimus took complete control by turning Batavia's graveyard into his own private dictatorship.
You seem like a trustworthy guy. Some guy who's not going to get drunk with power.
You're right. Absolutely correct. I would never, ever disabuse my power, you worm.
Well, I appreciate it, because I'm busy here sewing the bodies back together.
Yeah, I
And
see
it's hard
what
to
you're
hate 'em
doing.
when you're sewing them.
And it's most delectable. Don't worry, I'll share the loads.
You seem untrustworthy, but I'm going to say I'm going to go against my better judgment and say you're in charge.
I can't wait to see your funeral.
Me neither. I wonder who's going to come. Oh, I'm sorry. I wonder who's going to cunt.
Thank you. The C word.
Now, during the sea voyage, Jeronimus had little to no power. But once he was handed the leadership position, the survivors were listening to his every word and carrying out every order he gave, which of course led to immediate abuses of power. One of Jeronimus's first orders was to give himself a large private tent, which was a dick move on an island with zero shelter. Then, as befitting his rise in stature, he raided Upper Merchant Pelsart's closet and began wearing Pelsart's clothes, complete with Pelsart's commanding rank epaulets.
Ah, yes. What I love. Perfect. Leathers, jewels, hats, gloves. Perfect. I will be completely dressed in this 80-degree heat. I'm actually going to take some of this off. It is interesting, because would you respect a man that just floated in on a board?
I would not respect a man who just floated in on a board, and I would respect a man less who put on another man's clothing in an attempt to look more official.
Yeah, the concept of the man floating in on the board and just going like, but the next being Hitler is like the weirdest jump in status.
Yeah. But on the other hand, as the world has proved again and again, humiliating yourself does not preclude people from treating you as a godlike being.
No, it's almost like they kind of like that within you because they themselves are a big old fucking loser.
Yeah. Well, once properly adorned, Jeronimus gave orders to build rafts out of the empty supply barrels. He told people to explore the other islands. He told them to erect more tents. This is all perfectly reasonable things to do.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
But by the end of June, after about 4 weeks on Batavia's graveyard, the sailors, I suppose, ran out of things to talk about. And one of them...
I'm bored. I'm sick of your stories. I've heard every one of your jokes, and each one ends with the black guy fucking the white woman.
Have you ever been to the Netherlands?
All right, can't hear it again. Yes, and they're horrible.
Well, one of them began gossiping about the mutiny plot that had been afoot just before the ship wrecked on the reef.
You wouldn't even fucking believe this, man. We were planning a mutiny. We fucking were going to kill all of you pieces of shit. That's crazy, right?
No, it was one of the mutineers.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like I heard about this. Just like, man, yeah, we were definitely going to kill everyone and become pirates. But that's not going to happen now, I guess.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Best laid plans.
Now, Jeronimus' name wasn't being mentioned yet, but he knew that it was likely that Upper Merchant Pelsart was now headed straight to Java after failing to find more fresh water, and Pelsart would soon return with a ship and a crew of at least 20 men. But since the mutiny plot was becoming common knowledge on the island, the survivors, when they were rescued, they would no doubt spill the details once Pelsart returned, and Jeronimus' part would eventually be revealed, resulting in a trip to the VOC gallows. So, after the word got out about the mutiny, Jeronimus decided that his only hope of survival was to overtake the rescue ship and return to his original plan of becoming a dread pirate. But to do that, Jeronimus needed sailors and soldiers, lots of them, so his mutiny recruitment resumed.
You know, this shows the worst part about evil nerds is their work ethic. And their ability to sort of put in the work in a moment that needs to be done. Because this is him. All of a sudden, it's like, you talk about this, it's an instant switch.
Yeah. Well, over the course of just a week, Jeronimus was able to recruit even more men for his plot than what he'd managed to persuade when the Batavia was still at sea. When he added his original gang to the new recruits, he found himself in the company of 24 cutthroats and dastards anxious to join his pirate fantasy. What's interesting, though, is that no concrete details exist as to exactly how Jeronimus was able to pull this off. But considering how charismatic and grossly unethical he was, it probably wasn't all that difficult. See, Jeronimus was particularly good at making a case for common cause. He told his men that he and them, they're the same, despite the fact that they were hardened men of action and he was basically a pharmacist dandy turned sales rep.
Now, what is a dastard?
A dastard's like a bastard, but worse.
Yeah, it's a dastard. It's a bastard who's your father. It's a dad bastard.
Yeah, one that stuck around, but you wish he left.
Yes.
I usually put dastard with highwaymen and pirates. Those are the men outside of the law.
Oh, and that's
Ronins.
dastardly. That's where that comes from.
Yeah. Exactly.
There we go. Look at this.
Yeah, a dastard knows who his father is. And he hates his fucking ass.
I got a dastard.
Yeah. See, I feel like Jeronimus also, it is putting them in the same level because in society they would never be.
No.
Right?
Of course
now
not.
it's
that's my whole point.
Yeah.
Is that, they're men of action and he's, fiddling with his apothecary kit.
Yes.
Back in Amsterdam. But now they're on the sea and it's a whole different game.
Well, also, you're already fucked. I feel like there's also the thing, too, of like, we might all just be dead here anyway.
Yeah. And that also brings up the question is some people, when you get faced with, almost certain death, some people accept it and just sort of ride out the time. Some people try to do as much good as they can before they die. And some people turn into absolute fucking monsters because they've wanted to be monsters their entire lives.
Yeah.
And now they can be without consequence. Now, from what it seems, the logical fallacy that held the mutiny together was thus. Since the VOC didn't care about what happened to its employees, Jeronimus and his men didn't need to give a fuck about anyone but themselves. See, when Jeronimus stepped into the power vacuum, you had a person in a position of authority telling these downtrodden soldiers and sailors that it was okay to act on their worst impulses at all times. And if they acted on those impulses, it would somehow translate to them living the life they'd always deserved.
That yada, 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 super important.
Yeah. In other words, dandies from rich families who have never done a hard day's work in their lives have been taking advantage of the worst impulses of the working class for centuries. And the worse the working class is treated, the easier it is for the dandies to turn them into monsters. See America from 2016 to present day for more details on that.
What's going on? I don't understand, Marcus. What does that refer to?
Yeah, done a bunch of rich boys stirring up people who don't have any money and telling them.
You mean the manliest men on record that are that know exactly how we should push this country forward into a full hemispheric power?
Men with the best potato bodies that humanity has to offer.
Nothing I love better than a president I can motorboat.
Now, the men who would do the majority of the dirty work in Jeronimus' name over the coming months were the Army cadets, young men between 21 and 25 years old, otherwise known as the most dangerous demographic of humans on the planet.
Congrats, boys.
Amen. They really are. Although nowadays, I'd say it's 16-year-olds are the most dangerous.
Oh, they're all bad, yeah.
I get really scared. When I see a pack of 16-year-olds, I get terrified.
Yeah, you can't kill them, you can't punch them, you can't do anything.
do nothing. Yeah, because if you fight back, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Now, 16-year-olds have always... they've been dangerous for a long while now, but 21 to 25, they've got a little bit of intelligence to them, and that makes them particularly dangerous. Mm-hmm. There were, however, men in Jeronimus' crew outside of the soldier and sailor set who may have just been drawn to the allure of the pirate's life, like the 23-year-old Dutch locksmith. He joined with little hesitation. Didn't really have any reason to join, just did it because he wanted to.
Like, all right, sounds fun. All right, let's go.
Likewise, the man who became Jeronimus's principal lieutenant, the man who would organize the gang and ensure the orders were carried out, he wasn't a soldier or a sailor either. Rather, Jeronimus's right hand was another VOC officer, an assistant from Amsterdam named David Zeevank, who would prove to be one of the most violent psychopaths in this story.
Never trust an assistant.
Yeah, or a save hand.
Yeah. This is the thing. You never know what happens in there.
It is, however, important to note that like many demagogues who get off on hurting people en masse, Jeronimus Cornelisz, with one pathetic exception, never got his hands dirty himself.
Yeah, because if he was in even a one-on-one combat with any single person, they could overpower him.
Yeah, he was a bitch.
Yeah.
And so, once his crew was established, Jeronimus slowly began to detach himself and his gang from the other survivors, starting with the confiscation of anything that could be used as a weapon, but specifically the swords and the muskets. Once he removed the survivors' means of defending themselves, Jeronimus and his right-hand man, David Zeevank, came up with a plan to take control of the islands using cold calculation and subtle manipulation. Their first priority was reducing how many mouths they had to feed, both to conserve supplies and to limit the risk that their conspiracy to steal the rescue ship and strand everyone else might be discovered. After conferring with Zeevank, Jeronimus decided that cutting the number of survivors by half and condemning over 100 people to death would be a good start, although violent murder was not their first method.
Yes, great start. So much fun. Can't wait.
Rather, Jeronimus had his followers explore the nearby islands on rafts, with the goal of finding an island without any resources where they could send a large group to die of dehydration or hunger.
Yarrrr! Jeronimus, I found this place over here. It sucks.
He's going to kill
Perfect.
them like a 10-year-old kills a hamster that he doesn't pay attention to.
Oh, yeah, that's what he, to be honest, he kind of thinks that they can kind of separate them all piece by piece, and then everyone will just leave him alone.
Yeah.
Now, to get the geography straight in our heads here, the survivors would ultimately be spread across 4 islands in the Houtman-Abrolhos chain, but the 3 islands that became the site of Jeronimus's atrocities were grouped together in a close triangle formation. The topmost island in the triangle was Batavia's graveyard, the so-called womb-shaped island.
Yes, womb-shaped.
Yes.
Absolutely a veritable shape that everyone knows. Very close to many other things. You could have said pear-shaped.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not even pear-shaped either.
No.
No, I actually looked at it. You know what shape it is, Marcus? Fig-shaped.
Fig.
Huh.
It's like
Ish.
It's fuck you. First of all, go absolutely and fuck yourself because I know figs. And I looked at that, and that is a halved fig.
Ish.
Is now a fig like not like one you'd eat, but one that's like still attached to a tree?
Yes.
That's stupid.
None of you tried. None of you tried like I tried.
It looks like a J.
Yeah, actually.
Fig.
Well, half a mile to the south was a supposedly mushroom-shaped island.
fuck.
Although after looking at it on a map, I'd say it's more like a liver.
I'm gonna flip out.
Well, the liver-shaped island was where Pelsart had consolidated supplies before exiling most of the survivors to Batavia's graveyard. So the mutineers rechristened Pelsart's former base as Traitors Island, as a slight to those who had abandoned them.
And in the middle of it, we'll change it to the Gulf of Asshole. Yeah, he's a real asshole, right? Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Yeah, and I'm over here. There's this nerd mountain. Yeah, here's where I go. That's where I go to look at all the nerds.
Yes, and that there is Rapist Cove.
Hey, now, hey, buddy, with the R
It's just the
word.
name. It's just the name.
This was brilliant branding on Jeronimus's part, calling it Traitors Island. Because if a demagogue wants to maintain the anger of his followers, it's essential to create labels and catchphrases that constantly remind them of their grievances. Modern day example being like DEI. You know, you say that word and immediately people become dissatisfied with their lot in life. It makes them blame their misfortunes on others, you know, blame their failures on others.
Yes.
It just keeps it just always fucking just pressing that fucking anger button.
Yeah. Like mine's Eddie Redmayne.
It really is. It really
Can't stand him. Still.
Yeah, we showed him on the stream a couple of last night or 2 nights ago, and you just fucking lost your mind.
He apologized for the movie he played the lady in or whatever, and it made me hate him more.
The
Yeah.
Danish girl?
Yeah.
You know, she didn't eat at all in that movie.
Absolutely, and she would have been horrible on the Batavia.
And if you want to hear that conversation, including the larger conversation about the testicle sizes of various male celebrities, go to our YouTube channel and watch Last Stream on the Left or watch it live on our Patreon.
Cut. We'll see you next Tuesday on the screen.
Now, about a mile...
We really need to incorporate that into our promo world.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, we will.
Now, about a mile east of Traders Island was Seals Island, so named for the hundreds of seals that had made their home there prior to the arrival of the Batavia. By the end of June, all the seals had been eaten, and the only water sources were brackish pools. But the only people who knew that for sure were Jeronimus and his crew. With this in mind, Jeronimus told a group of men, women, and children that Seals Island had plenty of resources. And since these people still trusted their leader at this point, 40 survivors readily agreed to be ferried a mile southeast, where they were left with a few barrels of water and an empty promise of more supplies to come.
Listen, you're all going to love Seals Island, incredible island, absolutely amazing. Enjoy yourselves right here. We'll be back. Pinball machine, barbecue grill. We're going to have, I'm going to get a projector. We're going to show Weekend at Bernie's.
That's right. Water.
Yes.
Murder. I mean, nutmeg.
And after I turn in all of my Marlboro miles, I'm bringing back a windbreaker.
There are so many seals there, all filled with blood to drink.
Yummy, yummy, yum. Actually, do you have, this seal blood's fine, but do you have 2%?
Well, after sending 40 people off to Seals Island, a further 15 men, led by the ship's provost, were sent to Traders Island with tools to build rafts that would ostensibly be used to travel to the other islands northwest of Batavia's graveyard. These islands, located a little over 3 miles away, the largest islands by far, were dubbed the Highlands, because it was the only place on any of these islands that had an elevation above 6 feet.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, they're on
Highlands, bro.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I feel
man, the Allman Brothers are on the highlands.
I hate to say it, but I think that weed is like the last thing I'd want on a deserted island.
Really?
I think that booze would be better.
Booze? Well, I
Nah.
guess you get calories.
Yeah.
Well, booze would be better only because booze does a thing. Booze makes me really not give a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You know, I love weed.
But then you get dehydrated
yes.
and you die.
Well, again, great.
Same with weed.
Well, it was on the Highlands that Jeronimus would enact his most insidious masterstroke in taking total control. He gathered together the soldiers most loyal to the VOC, 20 men in all, and sent them to the highland to find water sources. Leading this group was a soldier named Viva Hyas, who was said to be a man of considerable ability whose character and sense of purpose were unusual for a private soldier of this time. Now, Jeronimus told the loyal VOC men, led by Viva Hyas, that they would be dropped off at the Highlands, where they would search for water and light signal fires if and when they found it. Once the fires were lit, Batavia's graveyard would come to their aid and bring them back to home base with all that water in tow. But Jeronimus knew that Captain Jacobs and Upper Merchant Pelsart had already searched the Highlands for water and found nothing. So it was Jeronimus's hope that he could dump the men most likely to challenge his mutiny on a barren dirt ball where they'd die of thirst.
You know, I just feel like it's not a good thing to count against the trained soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. And so, once Viva Hyas and his men were stranded on the highlands with no way of returning on their own, Jeronimus had condemned 75 survivors to near certain death, and in the process had removed most of the men and boys who might have fought back when the time came for Jeronimus to take full control.
Now, do you think he was planning on that then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, when he was sending everyone off to the different islands, oh yeah, they had already had the conversation of like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to take the number down to enough people where when the rescue boats come, we can easily take them over and get the fuck out of here?
And this is like a month after being on Batavia's graveyard, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's about a month.
It is wild how fast all of this falls together.
You know, honestly, a month seems like a long time when you're doing nothing and starving and you're fucking eating your own tongue.
Sounds like a month of Sundays.
I'm bored. There's nothing to do on this stupid old island. Just guys kicking shells like, I guess we just have to create a system of devastation. You're right, arr.
But even with the removal of 75 people, there were still 133 survivors on Batavia's graveyard, including Yarronimus and his 24 compatriots, far more than what the supplies could support. So, finally, Yarronimus came to the conclusion that their only remaining option was murder.
Murder. We have to murder them, I guess. It's the only way.
I would say more of a I
suppose murder will be in order.
Maybe I should change. I want to try out a new outfit.
It's just so amazing to have so many looks. I never have this before. Here we go. This is my I'm going to touch your boobies look. This is your I'm going to kill your father look.
Now, Yarronimus was far too smart to just start killing people willy-nilly. Instead, he began by disguising the thinning of the herd as law and order, which is usually how things like this get going. Mm-hmm. The first victim was a soldier who'd been caught tapping a wine barrel outside of his normal rations. Under interrogation, i.e. torture, he admitted that he'd been doing this for quite some time, and even ratted out his friend who'd been sharing the spoils.
It's an addiction. It's a disease, this alcoholism. I'm addicted to Merlot, and I can't stop.
I was drinking with Jerry. That's ridiculous. It's crazy thing I ever
It's like full purple lips. I don't even know. She's talking about wine.
Crazy.
Wine. I didn't complain at all.
Now, this offense was brought before the island's council, the one that was originally led by the surgeon and was still made up of mostly higher-class passengers and crew from the Batavia. But as we mentioned, Yarronimus had taken control of the council at the surgeon's insistence, and Yarronimus surprised everyone by insisting that both wine thieves be executed to send a strong message against stealing. Now, the council refused to agree to a death sentence for something so minor. So, as is common when dictators are seizing control, Yarronimus threw a tantrum.
Like literally.
Yeah. Dissolved the original council and formed a new one with his fellow mutineers. Fairly similar, not one-to-one, but fairly similar to how the Nazis did it. Lacking weapons or the will to resist, the original council members had no recourse but to let it happen. In short order, the new council executed the soldier who tapped the wine by drowning him, loudly and publicly, then quickly sentenced 2 more men to death on bogus charges to fully establish the new order of things.
We kill people now.
The second execution orders were directed at 2 carpenters accused of secretly building small sailboats so they could selfishly escape. They weren't. And for that, they were stabbed to death by swords by Yarronimus's gang.
You know, the best way to kill a carpenter, though, is just leave out meth. All the time. Yeah.
Carpenters, guys who put up drywall.
Yeah, guys who steal drywall. Guys who put up bronze piping. Yeah. Guys who take out bronze piping.
Also, you're accusing the carpenters of building rafts, and so you kill them, when you could have just been like, hey, guys, why don't you build some rafts?
Yeah, keep building rafts for us.
Yeah, build the boats. Well, I mean, it was so they were trying to build sailboats.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I really the logic here is so twisted so much of the time. Like, a lot of the shit that they do just doesn't really make sense, and they just kind of have to wave it away. And they eventually
do it almost for the payment and the cruelty, the pain and the cruelty of it.
Oh, absolutely. The cruelty is very much the point most of the time. But eventually, I think the cruelty also starts to happen with more regularity, so they don't have to answer the types of questions that Ed just asked.
Yeah, and
which is going to start happening to Eddie.
Yeah.
When he keeps asking these fucking
cockamamie
questions to our leader. How dare you? I say it's now he gets 10 ball spanks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you keep that up, I'm going to hide your clove oil.
No! No! What about my weekends?
Rise from your grave.
Now, the thinning of the ranks to save supplies was not Jeronimus's only motivation for executing survivors. If Jeronimus's pirate plan was to succeed, the 24 mutineers would need to survive on the island until the VOC's return without any interference from VOC loyalists, so any possible dissent had to be stopped before it even began. Jeronimus, however, couldn't yet murder people out in the open, and he could only fabricate so many charges worthy of execution. So, his mutineer council came up with the plan to disappear the remaining VOC loyalists by taking them out on so-called search missions and drowning them on the open sea.
So what you're telling me is that you would go out to search, and then you'd murder them. Wow. But the searching's not real.
No.
Wow. That's
Not at all.
lying. So you mean to tell me we'll be lying?
Yeah, we'll be lying.
But then we get to murder.
Yeah. And which is worse? Hypocrisy.
Honestly, it's hypocrisy.
Who's gonna do my laundry?
Well, the first group, 2 soldiers and 2 seamen, were taken out by a gang of 6 who rowed until Batavia's graveyard was no longer in view. Once out of sight, the mutineers grabbed the loyalists, tied their hands and feet, and threw them overboard to drown.
I should have known this was happening.
Hey, you want to see a rope trick?
That's the problem, man. That's why it's always super important. Watch Godfather 2.
Yeah.
And know that anytime anybody's taking you out on a boat and you hadn't planned for at least a couple of weeks, you're getting whacked.
Yeah. But out of the 4 men set to be executed, a VOC cadet begged for his life and succeeded. He pledged total loyalty to the mutineers, meaning he was now required to do anything Jeronimus or his men asked of him under pain of death. This cadet was the first of many survivors to join the mayhem in order to save their own skin. And in the weeks to come, these cowards would do terrible things over and over again just to prove their allegiance. Now, since the first group execution had gone well, Jeronimus ordered another 2 days later, but this time it was more about settling a personal beef. One mutineer, an absolutely psychopathic German named Matties Beer, who would eventually kill dozens, he had pegged 2 VOC men as cacklers, meaning they talk too loudly.
Why are you fucking pointing at me?
Yeah. I also talk too loud while I'm getting pegged.
Yeah, seriously. And a lot of it's like, ow, hey, who are you? Oh my God, the captain of police.
Grab the clove oil!
Hey, where's the clove oil, buddy? You're jerking me around like I'm some kind of ripped open Christmas stocking.
I really want to thank the person who wrote in about the clove oil.
Yeah,
We would not
really,
have a
yeah.
running joke today.
No. Well, amongst the cacklers drowned at sea was the ship's upper trumpeter. And I just wanted to talk about this guy because I find this job fascinating.
Yeah.
This is like more or less the ship's house band. He'd use a trumpet or a drum, and he'd set the work pace, he'd signal workers when it was time to eat meals, and communicate between ships in the flotilla.
Ah, a regular Miles from Land Davis.
Wow, very funny. Yes.
That's really good.
The idea of just like literally, that's all he does.
Mm-hmm.
He just goes and goes, and then they're like, oh, you're killing me here, upper trumpeter. And he's just like, blame the music. You know what I mean? Like, blame the cheat. I'm not playing. I don't,
Go invent the guitar.
I don't know what's
But the second set of executions marked a turning point in the island mutiny. Instead of killing someone solely because they were loyal to the VOC, Jeronimus was now giving permission to kill simply because a mutineer didn't like someone, which of course edged them closer and closer to murder most willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly murder is some of the most devastating actions that can happen to society.
God, yes.
Willy-nilly is like, a lot is hidden within the term willy-nilly.
It sounds cute.
It does.
It does. But, I mean, technically, genocide is by definition willy-nilly.
It literally is. It is almost the pure definition of willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Holocaust. got so willy-nilly.
Okay, here
towards
we
the
go.
end. Listen,
Well, I would actually argue that the Holocaust is the opposite of willy-nilly. The Holocaust was highly organized.
What's
Yes.
the opposite of willy-nilly?
What Stalin did.
Organized.
But
I would say Stalin. Now that's willy-nilly.
He was very willy-nilly.
He was very willy-nilly. Like all
Okay.
the famines in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Or in
Okay.
Ukraine. Yeah, that's willy-nilly.
But what about? But what's the word's opposite? Is it like nolly wally?
Organized.
No, but
Yeah.
like what's a silly word?
Oh, a silly word.
Bingy bongy,
Yeah.
cocky buggy.
This thing, organized and silly don't really go hand in hand.
Got your bullshit all lined up.
Yeah.
So the Holocaust had its bullshit all lined up.
Yeah. Real well.
Thank you.
Real well. Had whole teams of people on it.
Wow.
God, I just got 4 family members that aren't going to talk to me anymore. Now.
I tried to say they were willy-nilly.
Now, by this point, Jeronimus had ordered the deaths of 8 men, 5 secretly and 3 publicly.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I order the deaths of millions each day, and no one listens.
Jeronimus had also consolidated control by dissolving the original council and forming a new one made up of his most trusted lieutenants. He'd also successfully eased the pressure on supplies by sending large groups of survivors to die on other islands. This also divided his potential enemies into 4 separate camps, 2 of which had no way of returning to Batavia's graveyard. But the problem with sending away men like Viva Hayas is that the most loyal soldiers on the Batavia were also the most capable, because as it turns out, men who are willing to murder dozens of people to fulfill a pirate fantasy are probably not going to be the ship's best and brightest.
It's called fascist brain drain.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well, as it turned out, the men Jeronimus had stranded on the highlands survived for 3 weeks before finding several water sources on July 9th.
Yeah, they were good at this shit. They literally went and did their job hardcore.
Yeah, he sent the best guys out. Of course they're going to find it. They're
Yep.
the best guys. Per his orders, Viva Hayas lit signal fires so Jeronimus could send men to bring them back. The fires, of course, were a most unwelcome sight to Jeronimus and his men.
Oh, yeah, because over those 3 weeks, he had really put this whole fucking thing into permanent order.
Yeah. And it's like July 4th, so if you're going to have fires, you got fireworks. Do you think they celebrated?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
In
if they celebrated
1628,
July 4th.
Dutchmen in 1628.
Yeah, they could have an insight to something we don't know.
Listen, tell me, have you ever shotgunned a beer? No, I mostly drink it with my mouth.
Well, the panic truly began to set in for Jeronimus when he saw that the group over on Trader's Island were not waiting for him to give the go-ahead to meet Viva on the highlands, because Jeronimus had apparently forgotten that he'd given them orders to build boats. Within minutes of seeing the signal fires, the Trader's Island group launched 2 small craft towards the highland islands, loaded with a group of Dutch soldiers, the Batavia's provost, his wife and child, a German soldier and his wife, and another woman traveling with her child. Now, since the visibility on the open ocean is surprisingly good, you can actually see like 3 miles at the outset with the naked eye. Jeronimus was easily able to see the rafts leaving Trader's Island from his vantage point on Batavia's graveyard, which was just half a mile away. This was worrisome, because he knew that if the rafts reached the highlands and returned with Viva's group, his short reign as leader would likely end with a VOC-sanctioned execution. So he made the immediate decision to send out his own men to intercept the Trader's Island group with orders to kill everyone with no exceptions. A group of 7, led by David Zavank, caught up to the Trader's Island boats and boarded them, where they immediately forced 4 soldiers overboard to their deaths.
They can't swim. It's like in BG3 when you just kick them into the fucking caverns. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
You just kick them down a well.
You lose the loot, but you get the kill.
Yep.
These soldiers, though, I hate to say it, they don't seem like great soldiers.
Well, they're getting bum rushed.
And
Yeah.
they're dehydrated and weak and all that
Yes.
shit, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, after taking control of the boats, Jeronimus's men then returned to Batavia's graveyard with most of the passengers. See, now that a rival group was in play, Jeronimus decided to make a bloody and brutal example of what would happen if anyone else decided to join Viva Hayas on the highland islands. Once the first boat landed, Jeronimus's men began by pulling the provost and his child onto the shore, where they hacked them to pieces with their swords. 2 more men were pulled out along with another child, who were also hacked to death. After seeing this, 4 men on the second boat jumped up and waded to shore, where they ran to Jeronimus and begged him to call off his men, not knowing that it was Jeronimus who'd personally given the kill-em-all order. So, after giving his prisoners a glare, Jeronimus told his men to give them no quarter, and all 4 were pinned to the ground with pikes before being chopped to death with swords and axes.
It's fucking kind of cool in a way. I know it's bad, but it's also fun in a way. It's a long time ago.
He said no quarter, but he did quarter them.
Yes.
Yeah, or maybe eighth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to cut them into 12-ounce pieces.
So at this point, Vina, that's his name? Viva doesn't know that he's Jeronimus' enemy, right?
Has no idea.
Right?
No clue, yeah. Well, the remaining prisoners were 3 women, but they weren't spared either. After watching their husbands and children die on the orders of the man who'd sworn to protect them, the women were shoved into the water and drowned. In all, 15 people have been gruesomely murdered in full view of the remaining survivors on both Batavia's graveyard and Trader's Island. After the first of many massacres to come, the number still alive ticked down to 133.
We're getting closer. Yes, my voice has changed because I'm getting used to the island now. And it's just so good to finally have all the support I've ever wanted. Out here in the ocean water, like a crab living his dream. Somebody bring me some ice cream.
I saw a seal crawling across a straight razor.
You know, your Marlon Brando sounds like Dom DeLuise doing Marlon Brando.
Yes, it does. Silence of the lambs.
Now, after seeing what happened if you made Jeronimus angry, about a dozen men pledged their undying loyalty directly to Jeronimus, some to try and protect their families, and some just to get bigger rations of food, water, and wine. But Jeronimus didn't really trust the men who joined only after they witnessed the massacre, so any new recruit that wasn't a part of the original gang of 24 had to regularly demonstrate their loyalty in increasingly cruel ways. One of the first ordeals was endured by a German soldier named Hans, who'd boarded the Batavia with his wife and child. He joined the mutiny after the shipwreck in hopes of protecting his family, but he had no way of knowing that his loyalty test would render his plan moot.
I don't know how to trust you. I wish I could. There's something about you I don't get. Something I don't understand. I wish there was something you could do to make me feel better, because I'm just getting so worried.
Well, Jeronimus invited Hans and his family into his tent for dinner, but in the middle of the
I
meal...
hope you like calamari. It's made out of bird. I hope you enjoy this turkey. It's made out of seal.
But while they were eating their meal, one of Jeronimus's men went over to Hans's tent and strangled Hans's daughter to death.
You enjoying yourself? You liking the appetizers? You want a little sorbet? To sort of clean the palate, I made it on my piss. You want some? You want some seal blood? You enjoy that?
Someone get the trumpeter to play some music.
Oh,
we
son.
can't? We can't? Oh, no.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
Learn the trumpet.
And of course, when Hans and his wife got back to the tent, they discovered their daughter had been murdered, and they had a pretty damn good idea of who had murdered her. Nevertheless, a couple days later, Hans signed a written, unbreakable oath of loyalty to Jeronimus and his men, probably to try to save the life of his wife.
Oh my God, Hans, can't believe you're here. What changed your mind? So good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the mutiny.
I, Hans, love the man who murdered me daughter.
Yes, say it again. Say it for the guys in the back.
I pledge to him my undying loyalty for all the courage to kill her myself.
Thank you. Somebody said that. I'm brave.
Jeronimus is sexy. Jeronimus is tall.
Keep
he's
going.
strong.
I
and
haven't-
so fit.
Someone
and
give me my
well-dressed.
clove oil.
You guys sound like a couple of drag queens.
Yes. That's what it is.
Well, for the next loyalty test, Jeronimus ordered the VOC assistant who turned coat during the first set of boat executions to slit the throats of every man, woman, and child in the sick tent. 11 people in all, too sick to move from scurvy or fever. With 4 of Jeronimus's men supervising, the assistant did as he was told. And when 5 more men were put in the sick tent a few days later, the assistant cut their throats too. From that moment on, the assistant had a new job, because sickness on Batavia's graveyard was a death sentence for all except those who were friends with the gang. Think about that. Within a few days, like they have 2 mass murders, 2 massacres. Like one day, like 15 people are killed. A few days later, 11 people are murdered. A few days after that, 5 more are killed. And this is going at like such a quick fucking pace.
It's like 15% of the people.
Yeah.
In like 3 days.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like one of those the stories you hear about, like what happened in the Congo or what happened in these places where the devastation is so intense and so public that they can't do anything. They're like paralyzed by how public it is. And you do have, like, yes, now you have the mutineers to kind of even set that up, is that on Batavia's graveyard, yes, you have the bad group of mutineers, but you also have, like, the people that are really trying to not get involved.
Yeah.
And they have moved to the other side of the island, and they're trying to just be like, very similar to something that sounds very familiar now, to say like, well, it's not hurting us right now.
Yeah.
So we're just going to kind of just live over here and try to pretend like everything's fine over here. And we're just going to over here and I'm going to stay by these shells. Like I was saying to Marcus, that'd be me. I'd be on the other side of the island going like, I'm totally cool with these shells. I don't need your wine. I don't need the ladies. I just want these shells. I promise I will do nothing.
He's got shells! Get him!
Take your shells! Take your shells!
I try not to get too involved in politics.
Now, after the massacre, staying over on the other side of the island, that didn't fucking work anymore. There really wasn't a need to keep up any pretense of a just society. And since the mutineers still needed to thin the ranks, Jeronimus gave them permission to kill whoever they wanted, whenever they wanted, however they wanted. Just so long as the person didn't have an important job. Like, you couldn't kill the surgeon, but the guy who, like, was kind of good at catching fish, yeah, you could kill him if you wanted.
You need the fish guy.
But if he's only kind of good at it.
Yeah.
Certainly don't need the trumpeter.
No,
That's why he was the first to go.
Hey, you don't know what you need until you fucking need it. That trumpeter could have been Locke. I mean, you never know. We can use that to scare away birds.
That's right.
Bad birds.
Oh, and by the way, all this occurred a little over a month after the Batavia was shipwrecked. And by my reckoning, all of this took place in the first week that Jeronimus took control. All of it. God. So far.
Yeah, we're not even. This is what I'm saying, guys. Like, we're not even in the end of this. Let's just keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
Now, can I? The one thing I keep thinking about: did they save the gold? Did the jewels and stuff?
I'll get to what they did with the gold in a second. It's fucking so stupid. But with so many murders, some were bound to go awry, and few went as badly as the execution of 2 men Jeronimus condemned to death after they were falsely accused of stealing food. The first victim here was easy. He had his throat slit as he begged to say his prayers before death, a request that was denied.
No God here.
The second victim, however, was far more resilient. Or, at the very least, I think the guys kind of got a little cute with it and decided to make this murder far more brutal. Problem was, they didn't have the tools to do it right. The second guy was stabbed in the chest repeatedly.
Ow, 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 ow.
But the knife snapped. A second knife was used.
Ow, 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 ow.
But that one broke too.
Why are you doing this? Stop it.
One of the mutineers then grabbed a pair of daggers and drove them into the victim's neck. But okay, I like that one. There is something kind of funny about someone getting stabbed in the neck. I don't know what it is. But the mutineer managed to miss the veins, the arteries, and the windpipe.
You fucking piece of shit! Fucking suck at this! You bitch! You can't fucking kill anybody!
Those daggers also broke, and the victim was still alive.
I'm gonna live forever! Alright, fuck you piece of fucking shit!
Finally, the executioner had to dig into the victim's wounds to find a sliver of a broken knife that was sharp enough. And when he did, he ended the farce by slitting the victim's throat. It took so long. And they broke like 6 knives.
What the fuck? Drowning was working so well. Just drown them.
But it's not as fun. Honestly, with these guys, they get such a taste for murder, and they start to get inventive with it. Like, they want to see all the different ways that a man can die, and they like watching men die. It's entertainment. It's like why people go to executions, or why they went back in the day, because they liked seeing people die. And these psychopaths, they get the opportunity. It's like every serial killer's fucking wet dream.
Yeah.
It's the opportunity to just go onto an island and be able to kill whoever you want, whenever you want, however you want, without consequence. And not only that, you've got people backing you up.
God, the dream.
Maritime law.
Now, the timeline is a little hazy here, but from what I can tell, after 6 weeks on the island and about a month after Jeronimus took total control, his men had continuing murdering people at such a rate that they'd successfully killed no less than 50 men, women, and children. Where Batavia's graveyard had started with 140 survivors, they were now down to 90, and Jeronimus wasn't even halfway done. But killing, of course, can only take up so much time in your day. And with the 3 eastern islands firmly under their control, the mutineers' chief enemy soon became boredom.
I'm bored. It was so long. I spent a good amount of time fishing that piece of knife out of that guy. You saw what we did.
Yeah.
And it was funny how he yelled.
It was funny.
I even just the memory of it. And then we did that skit where we reenacted the murder. That was fun. The writing was tense. Because of the rewrites you insisted on.
Well, I said when you called him an asshat, I didn't mean to make a hat out of his ass.
Yeah, but this is what the audience wants. They want more creativity. They want us to dig deeper. But now, honestly, after the live show, I'm bored again.
What do you guys think about going back to the mousetrap game and actually playing the game? We don't just build up the trap and then set the trap. We play the game this time.
But then I just get lost in all the possibilities of all the traps.
I'm just going to make dominoes out of these rocks.
Go get me my clove oil. I need to teach Domino something.
Well, some men spent their time catching fish and birds. Others devoted their day to more death. They made homemade morning stars from clubs, strips of lead, and long iron nails affixed to short lengths of rope. These guaranteed painful, drawn-out deaths, which, as I just said, were themselves a form of entertainment.
Fishing's a fine hobby. It's a very popular hobby. People do it. There's like television shows devoted to it.
I'm bored. I don't like fishing. It's just sitting and waiting. I hate fishing. You know what I like? Pushing a woman down in the sand.
You could kill the fish if you want.
Nah, it's not the same. It doesn't make any noise.
Well, as far as what Jeronimus did when he wasn't giving out orders, this answers your question. He invited his men into his tent to run their fingers through the treasures he'd managed to salvage from the Batavia's holds.
Oh, I thought you were going to say through his hair.
I don't have any hair. I don't need it.
And this is all while he told them that these treasures were nothing compared to the riches they'd earned from their future careers in piracy. Yeah. It's basically story time. And he's further manipulating these men. He's driving the idea into their heads, like, if you keep acting like a monster and you keep doing what I say, this will be the rest of your life. These treasures.
Nothing but gold pieces. And gold and silver in our mouths and our hands. Look and see all the treasures that lie in wait.
But the people you could give the treasure to for things are the people who are going to kill you once they found out what you did. No, right? I'll tell you. I think
Get the pikes. Get the axes. Get some small knives.
Well, there were actually plenty of ports back in these days that were pirate cities, basically, where these people could go and trade for goods, with their, ill-gotten gains.
Very similar to back in the day when we covered Billy the Kid and like those places that you went to.
Blackbeard, you mean?
Yes.
Not Billy the Kid.
No, but I mean actually like Billy the Kid.
Oh, the fences.
Yeah, when you go hang out at like specifically criminal-only places.
Yeah, towns, yeah. But fantasies would only hold the attentions of Jeronimus and his gang for so long. So on July 15th, Jeronimus ordered the execution of everyone remaining on Seals Island, except for the women. In my view, this was either to give his men an activity or to fulfill his ever-growing lust for the feeling he got when he ordered others to commit murder.
I think it's that one.
Yeah, you think it's the second? I think it's both.
Oh, well, I think if he wanted
¿Por qué no las dos?
because I feel like if you wanted him something to do, I think it'd be a lot of like,
Okay, everybody, today we're doing yoga.
like it's just like a
Today, I actually think that we should all begin a story, one sentence at a time, and each one of us continues the story.
like that's the thing, giving somebody just something to do.
Yeah, but when the people that you're giving them, that you need to give something to do, when they're a bunch of murderous, rapacious sailors and soldiers, they're not going to be really like down for like a fun word like charades.
Hey, they've
Yeah.
never tried.
Once you kill like 50 people, you pretty much have to kill everyone else too.
Basically, yeah.
Well, you just have to start going down the list, going down the line. But no matter the motivation, what followed on Seals Island is true savagery unleashed, an indiscriminate slaughter of the innocents committed by men who were proving that at certain points in history, devils have walked this earth.
I love this guy writing the script. I love this story.
Thank you. Now, this butchery was committed by just 7 men armed with swords, daggers, and, of course, their homemade morning stars. Leading them was former VOC assistant David Zavank, who never missed an opportunity to participate in a mass murder.
You know what he reminds me of a lot for some reason? You know the Elijah Wood character from Sin City?
Yeah!
Like the thing where you could kind of just see his like you could just see him wearing glasses, but you can't see his eyes. Like he just stands and just quietly murders people.
Oh, he also yelled quite a bit. He gave a lot of orders. He was a very active man.
Hey,
Yeah.
again, don't want to be bored.
I mean, if you could compare him to anyone, I'd put him more as, like, say, a commandant in like an Einsatzgruppen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
And so, once the attackers disembarked from their boat to enact the massacre on Seals Island, one of the mutineers, in a move that effectively announced that no one was safe from what was about to come, he stabbed a child in the chest as his first move. In quick order, the mutineers then cut down 5 cabin boys and 3 men with their swords, then split up to chase down the rest of the totally defenseless survivors who'd scattered across the small island, which was a space no bigger than a small city park. Now, 12 of the remaining cabin boys hid themselves in bushes in the middle of the island, but one cabin boy was grabbed by David Zavank, who told the boy that he must help lustily to kill, lest he be killed himself.
Can I say he's one of my I know that this is maybe wrong to say.
Yes.
He's one of my favorite goons in this whole story is this boy. They had taken him from the Cape when they had stopped. He was like from Sierra Madre.
Yeah.
He was this kid that literally he spoke no English and they got across to him but there was something about this 15-year-old boy where he was like, okay. And he was like, he wasn't angry about it.
Yeah.
And so he had to go kill the other boys.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know these motherfuckers. I'll kill them.
Yeah, fuck yeah, cool, great.
He was damn near a stowaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the 15-year-old cabin boy agreed to the terms, and after being handed a knife, he chased down one of the other boys before pinning him to the ground and stabbing him to death.
Boy, oh boy, I get to do this for fun. Yay! Thank you, mister.
But once the mutineers tired out, they dragged the wounded to the sea, 6 people, and held their heads under the water until they drowned. 4 pregnant women were found, but spared.
Aww.
And the mutineers returned to Batavia's graveyard with the newly murderous cabin boy recruit, having killed 16 people.
Oh, gee willikers, guys, this was the best afternoon I ever had. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I get to kill boys tomorrow. Can I get some soup?
Today, you are a cabin man.
Oh, yeah, that's what I like to hear, buddy. Absolutely. So we can go, oh, what's that smell? Is that clove oil?
Now, from what it seems like, Jeronimus considered the massacre to be a bit of a half-step. A few days later, he ordered his followers to sail back in the middle of the night to finish off the cabin boys who'd hid in the bushes. And once the group of 12 were found, most were bashed to death with morning stars and stabbed with daggers. Meanwhile, in another horrific loyalty test, the new cabin boy recruit they'd picked up last time they were on Seals Island, they ordered him to murder the 4 pregnant women they'd spared. And the cabin boy did as he was told by slitting the throats of all 4 while they slept.
Sure thing, boss. It's like I'm killing for 2. Yeah, and now I got 8, right? That's me, child killer.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good. You're doing
Yeah,
good.
right?
Yeah, you're doing real.
I'll kill you.
Shut the fuck up. Get this fucking kid away from me. I fucking
Hey,
can't
yeah, I'm
stand
ready to
up.
kill again.
Okay, yeah.
I'm bored.
Great.
I'm bored.
Great. What? Hey, look. I'm bored.
Oh, yeah, all right. Go kill this pregnant woman. Yay!
Oh, God, fucking hate him. Well, 3 cabin boys survived the second massacre on Seals Island, but were caught almost a week later when they emerged from hiding. 2 of them were brought back to Batavia's graveyard and drowned, while the third begged for his life and ultimately joined the men who'd been trying to kill him for days on end. Now, by this point, Jeronimus had ensured that almost every one of his followers had murdered someone, but he'd never actually killed anyone himself.
Whoa, he's like MS-13.
That all changed, however, when Jeronimus decided to murder an infant, which is either the easiest or hardest murder, depending on your point of view.
Easiest.
It's easiest. Yeah. It's much easier than stabbing that man to death with all the different knives.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But
Yeah.
at this point, you see so much death.
Yeah.
This is like, it's like, finally, I get an easy one.
Yeah, to me, honestly, even emotionally, it's kind of easier in a way because,
Yeah.
the thing about it is that you can just chuck it in the ocean.
You could just leave it outside.
It goes.
I could kill a man easier than I could kill a baby, but I could kill a baby easier than I could kill like a 6-year-old.
Now,
I thought about it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely kill a baby easier than a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I think it'd be harder to kill a 6-year-old than a 13-year-old.
Yeah,
Just because
absolutely.
they're stronger.
Oh, I'd kill a 13-year-old on the drop of a fucking hat.
unfortunately.
These are the thing. I didn't sleep well last night, so I had a lot of time. I just spent 4 hours just so I could rolling through things.
God, yeah, I didn't sleep well either. I almost killed a 17-year-old last night. I'm talking about Tootsie. She did not stop barking.
See, Batavia's graveyard was home to quite a few mothers in the beginning, but there had been one infant who'd been crying every night and keeping people awake. Jeronimus was particularly annoyed, so he opened his apothecary satchel, salvaged from the Batavia, and mixed a potion called Mercurium Sublimatum to kill the baby. But, as I said on the first episode, Jeronimus was a shitty apothecary. So while the poison did quiet the baby down somewhat, it didn't do its ultimate job. Instead, Jeronimus just put the baby in a kind of half coma. But he, of course, didn't have the stones to finish the job himself. Well, instead, Jeronimus forced upper merchant Pelsart's clerk to kill the baby.
Yeah, you done.
Partly as a little fuck you to Pelsart, and partly because Jeronimus knew that the clerk was a coward who'd do anything Jeronimus told him to do. Because I'd imagine killing a baby might have been too much to ask for some of Jeronimus's mutineers.
Arr, I tell you, I don't have any problems with killing the baby, but can I fuck it first? I don't mean to be. I'm not trying to make. I'm not doing it if I gotta fuck it after. Listen, I'm just I'm just curious, and is this a safe space for me to ask these questions?
Yeah, it is.
So he didn't kill the baby.
No, he didn't.
So he sucks.
Yeah.
He
He's a
can't even kill a baby.
Yeah.
No.
In the end, he actually didn't kill anybody because it was the clerk who did it. Because after fetching the clerk, Jeronimus and his followers went to the infant's tent and took it from its mother's arms. Jeronimus then told the clerk, quote,
Here's a half-dead child. You're not a fighting man. Here's a little noose. Go over there and fit it so that we here on the island do not hear so much wailing.
Taking orders like the coward he was, the clerk carried the baby outside, took the little noose, and strangled it to death, making the infant the 105th murder victim to fall prey to Jeronimus's will since the takeover.
And I know this is not funny,
Okay.
and this is not cute.
All
And
right.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
Marcus.
No,
just-
it's just fucking whatever you're going to say it.
It's just, is that not the cutest way to kill a baby with a tiny noose?
Yeah.
That is just the cutest sort of way to execute a baby.
Yeah, you know what? Granted.
You know, and when you're on an island, like a desert island, away from everyone in the world, there is little noose.
But
You're really not
sometimes,
getting.
but the key is that no noose is
It's good news.
Most of the time.
You're right.
What's like that? No, unfortunately for the rest of the survivors, 105 people murdered still didn't get the mutineers close to their goal of ultimately bringing down the population down to 45 or less. So the massacres continued, one after another. The next mass killing involved the family of the aforementioned minister, Gisbert Bastions. It's a hard name. Gisbert had brought...
Gisbert. We can just call him the American Gisbert.
Gisbert, yeah. Gisbert had brought 7 of his 8 children on the Batavia to join him on Java, where he had planned to be a spiritual leader to the Dutch settlers.
This is my son, Gisbert Jr. This is Gismin. This is Giz-sons. This is my daughter, Gizizian. This is my other son, Gisbert III. They're all named after what made them.
Semen.
Big old pie semen coming from my balls.
Don't forget my daughter Gismin.
She's Gismin because she's also mostly jizz.
What do you think holds her together?
That is what holds a woman together.
Jizz.
Yeah. God. People are going to love that.
They really are. They really are.
It's a womb-shaped island.
Yeah, very much so. I know exactly what it looks like, too, because I can measure it by the size of my fist.
Now, Minister Bastions believed at this point that his family was safe because his daughter had been courted by a mutineer who'd murdered half a dozen people already, and the minister had encouraged this engagement in the hopes that it would keep his family alive. But the quota of 45 had to be met.
Sands are tied.
And Jeronimus was playing a larger game besides. A few days after the massacre on Seals Island wrapped up, the minister and his daughter, the one engaged in the mutineer, they were lured away from their family tent with the promise of a meal. Pretty much the same game that he played with Hans.
Let me just ask you this. How does a hamburger sound?
Good.
Yeah?
How much jizz is on it?
Sure, as much jizz as you put on it, Gisbert. You know what I'm saying? 6 o'clock on the dot. Dinner reservations. See you in my bed.
Well, while they were gone, David Zavank and 8 other mutineers dug a grave pit as deep as they could manage, then snuck over to the minister's tent armed with hatchets and daggers.
Excuse me, what is that pit for? Are you making a pool? Yeah!
I figure, even though you're here on the ocean, sometimes it's nice, to have a pool.
Honestly, because I hate the waves, but I love the pool. Isn't that crazy? It's like ironic, right? When I have to go to dinner with Jeronimus.
Well, the first person killed at the minister family tent was the family servant, called from the tent, then stabbed and left to die. With her out of the way, Zavank entered the tent with his men, grabbed their oil lamp, and said, quote,
"Here has been reported hidden goods of the company that we will search for, and we will get them."
With that, Zavank blew out the lamp, and in the pitch black, murdered the minister's wife and children, aged 8 to 23, by caving in their skulls or beating them to death. 7 kids in all. The only one to almost escape was the youngest, as he was small enough to duck through the legs of his attacker. But Zavank was nearby, and without a thought, he brought his hatchet down hard on the 8-year-old and killed him. The last person alive was the mother, who'd by this point survived many stab wounds, bludgeons, and gashes. So, a mutineer finished her off by turning her skull into mush, and once everyone was dead, the corpses were dragged to the freshly dug grave pit and tossed inside.
Now, this is a dish I like to call macaroni and cheese. But it's made, as you can see here, the cheese is bird shit,
Ah,
and the noodles, birds' intestines.
ah.
But if you can just close your eyes for a second, it's like you're eating mac and cheese. Just the sound of it. The sound of it reminds me of mac and cheese. Kind of reminds me of... yeah. Oh.
Is my family okay?
Yeah. I heard that they were checking out the pool.
It is a little easier to joke about the victims when it's 500 years ago.
Oh, yeah,
It's much easier. It's the oldest rule of comedy. Tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the minister was quite understandably broken by the murder of his wife and children. The day after the massacre, he was ordered to stop weeping and get back to work. And when the minister did as he was told, Euronymous' ultimate plan concerning the murder of the minister's family was complete. See, in addition to bringing the island's numbers down, Euronymous had ordered the murder of the minister's family to maintain control over his gang. With the island's only man of God an empty husk, it was less likely for him to convince people that murder was wrong, or to even introduce the idea of guilt over everything they'd already done. That left the amoral Gnostic dogma preached by Jeronimus himself as the only philosophical game in town, and Jeronimus used his dogma to shield the mutineers from fear of criticism or divine retribution. As author Mike Dash put it, Jeronimus had created a society where his followers owed loyalty to him and him alone, where they were bound together not only by their crimes, but also by their rejection of conventional authority. As such, Jeronimus told his followers to reject the VOC rules that had previously stopped them from blaspheming and swearing. And to add insult to injury, he even encouraged them to openly ridicule the minister in his grief.
Which is usually fun.
That's the thing.
It's usually really fun to make fun of a minister, a priest, any man of God. Open, you can make fun of any of them.
One of the funnest things to do is to break a priest's faith. I can't imagine how powerful and how fucking awesome and how thickly I would jizz to do that.
Yeah.
But
You can't do it by killing his entire family, though.
No, you want to
That's
do
the
it.
problem.
Truly, the way to do it, bottoming him into submission.
Yeah, without
He's-
any clove oil.
Your goal is not fucking him. He fucks you. And your
power
ass,
bottoming.
If you power bottom a priest
Pull the
hard
Crowley.
enough, it does kill God in his heart. And I think that's important for our gay men out there to get that going.
Yes.
And I think that Euronymous, sadly, he proved a point. He's like, what's God? God isn't saving you.
Yeah.
And I'm the only authority here that is making anything happen.
I fucking hate when people give agnostics a bad name.
These are
This is Gnostic.
Gnostic.
Gnostic is all about God is a power. It's like it was a whole thing. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They pulled it all out of the Bible. Gnosticism essentially believes that you don't need the church to gain the power of Christ. Like you can literally talk to God yourself.
Yeah,
okay.
but what
He's got a
Euronymous,
whole thing.
But what Euronymous specifically took from it is that Gnostics also believe that God and the devil are of equal power.
Yeah.
And that so if God and the devil are of equal power, therefore there's really no such thing as good or evil, because good and evil are equal, and it can be it can be looked at in a bunch of different ways. But Euronymous specifically perverted that belief to say if there's no good and evil, then that means no sin exists, which means that I can do anything I want without any sort. He still believed he could go to heaven.
Yeah.
acting like this.
Very much so. And he also believed in the power of the Dutch contractual world, where one thing that they did here was that they took every single woman that was in a pile here and they signed them up for quote unquote public service, which was, I guess at a time they would do on boats.
Common service.
Yeah.
Right? Where they would do a thing where they would have a system of sex workers that would work within either whatever community and they would have it would be legal, right? And it would be kind of budgeted.
Yes, but these women were paying passengers.
Well, no, yeah, these women are fucked, right?
Yeah.
These women were not, this was not good for them, but they signed, a lot of the women had to sign these sort of fake contracts agreeing to be in this common service, whatever the term is, and then they basically turned it into a giant, horrible fucking sex dungeon.
It is crazy that throughout all of this, they're on this island, everything's devolved into chaos, 100 people are killed by this point. They still are signing shit.
Dude, that's what they believe society was built on.
Yeah, that's how the whole thing works. In fact, that's absolutely what I'm about to talk about right now.
All right, great.
Yeah, and by the way, at this point, only 7 women are left alive. Most of them have been killed at this point, either for being too old or for being pregnant. But yeah, only 7 women are still alive out of the 22 that started off on the journey.
Fucking shitty party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, holding together this new nightmare society were the oaths of trust Euronymous forced his men to sign. These were contracts which swore loyalty to each other and to Euronymous, making them obedient to him in every way in whatever he should order them to do. These oaths, signed by 36 men by the end of it, also enforced a strict hierarchy. All who signed renounced anything that may have come before the islands, and they therefore took new ranks. Jeronimus, for example, the former lowly undermerchant, was now known as the Captain General.
Yes.
Two things, Captain and General.
I'm a captain
General.
and I'm a general. I wanted to be an admiral too, but they said that was too much because they said it was too long of a name. Captain
there's-
General Admiral.
No more boat.
Yeah, no, see, we're in the water. So Captain General's fine. I wanted to actually be super wizard. But then everyone just said, what's a wizard? And I was just like, it's a guy that, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, to match his impressive title, Jeronimus continually modified the uniform he'd stolen from upper merchant Pelsart, gussying up his look by adding ornamental trimming, gold lace, ribbons, and medals he made himself.
You see this one? This is for best leader. And this one, nicest kisser. And this one, funniest man.
This was for dirtiest kisser.
I kissed inside of your mouth.
Jeronimus, however, wasn't the only one to get perks. The mutineers, who'd proved to be more violent and murderous than all the others, were given 2 rows of ornamental trimming to add to their outfits. And the men who held the highest status in the gang were the ones who'd recently killed the most people. So you had to keep killing in order to stay up top. It was like a leaderboard.
Yeah, or like a scout badge.
Yeah.
Hey, man. The beds of the closers.
Now, when it came to new recruits who really took to the murder aspect of being in Jeronimus's gang, there were none who went through a more drastic change than cabin boy Jan Pelgrim, who became such a terror that he was mentioned in several journals. Once Pelgrim joined the gang, he became the typical overzealous convert, swearing far more than was necessary and mocking God with the energy that only a teenager can muster. From accounts, Pelgrim would run around the island yelling things like, quote,
Come now, devils with all the sacraments, where are you, huh? I wish that I now saw a devil. And who wants to be stabbed to death? I can do that very beautifully.
fucking voice is like a goddamn dagger.
Yeah! I'll kill you again and again.
Yeah, I know you will. I know, Jan.
Yeah!
I know,
That's my
Jan.
name.
Jan, I know, Jan. Jan, time to calm down.
I'm bored. I want to kill a pregnant woman. I want to make a woman pregnant. I want to kill a pregnant woman.
That takes time.
But
Kids have no patience.
But Pelgrim's claim that he could stab someone to death very beautifully was all talk, but not because he lacked the will. Since Pelgrim was very small and weak for his age, he was ironically the only person on Batavia who didn't have the strength to murder anyone.
Come here. Come here, damn it. Ow.
Shut up, get the fuck off of me.
You see him fighting with a bird. Like, just wrestling with a bird.
I'll get you, bird.
Yeah, the baby was already dead by the time Pelgrim got on board, so the easiest death was already taken.
I just wish there was one more baby.
But didn't he kill another boy?
No,
Oh,
this is a different boy. Henry used the same voice for two different boys.
It's the
that's
other. It's
what
my
happened.
boy. It's my anonymous boy, cabin boy voice, and my anonymous sailor voice.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
same across the
Same
board.
across the board.
Well, in one particularly pathetic display, Jeronimus, after being pestered by Pelgrim for weeks, finally gave his overzealous convert permission to kill the cabin boy who mended the fishing nets.
Thank you.
This, however, was actually Pelgrim's second attempt at murder, as sometime earlier, he'd failed to strangle one of the women due to his puny frame, and one of the mutineers had been forced to finish the job for him.
Is this Hezbollah? That's what this feels like. It feels like it's Hezbollah.
Yeah, like little two MMA fighters, yeah. And so, in a scene reminiscent of a murderous game of t-ball, the mutineers tied up the cabin boy who mended the fishing nets so Pelgrim could chop off his head. But once again, Pelgrim was foiled by his own frailty.
Ow. Ow.
Pelgrim attempted to swing the sword he was given again and again, but he was so weak that the blows didn't even break the skin on his
Ow!
victim's neck.
It's a goddamn it. Fuck. Pelgrim, stop this fucking shit. Stab me with a point.
There's also rocks everywhere. Someone needs to sharpen a knife.
Yeah.
I am sick of this.
It's hard. They have no standards.
Finally, though, a mutineer stepped in. It wasn't that the knife wasn't sharp enough. It was that Pelgrim seriously could barely swing a sword. He was so fucking weak. A mutineer stepped in and took the cabin boy's head off with one fucking single swing.
Ah, come on. Come on, this is what I'm supposed to do all day.
Pelgrim was, of course, infuriated by his own failure
You bastard! You fucking piece of shit!
and continued to beg for another chance, saying he would rather kill than eat or drink.
Let me just cut a woman's parts off or something fun.
You can't cut, Pelgrim, you can't cut anything off. You can't cut anything off. We tried again and again. We tried to give you the fucking hair tie.
Let me have a musket.
All right. But as far as I know, Pelgrim never got his wish.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think that in the end, they just loved. He was like the Dalmatian
Yeah.
on the fire truck. Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely the man.
No one wants to kill more than him, and he can't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how sad is that? The other sailors being like, "Arr, can you imagine not being able to kill? That's gotta be the saddest thing ever." Arr.
Ironically, the only thing that kept him alive.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other sailors, or the mutineers, like, they kind of thought he was funny.
Of course,
like
yeah.
they encouraged him.
Yeah,
they
it's
told him
cute.
like, yeah, say more. Like, hey, Pelgrim, say fuckhead.
Fuckhead.
No, that's great.
Yeah, right? I want to kill.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the murders have been coming fast and loose for some time, but they only got worse when Jeronimus got paranoid and began ordering the deaths of anyone who might pose a challenge to his rule. And this, which happens in dictatorships all the fucking time.
Yes.
And the murders, as a result, were getting more gruesome. The ship's surgeon, for example, still well-liked by everyone on the island despite everything, and still extremely important to their survival, his death was ordered by Jeronimus because Jeronimus was worried. I think the surgeon's starting to take. He's thinking about taking over. The surgeon was stabbed repeatedly by a pike before his head was smashed in with a morning star, and it was cut away from his body. But there had been one murder that hadn't worked out as planned, and that failure would threaten the twisted world Jeronimus had built. See, soon after the Minister massacre, David Zavonk ordered a new recruit to break his murder cherry by killing the Batavia's underbarber. So the recruit lured the underbarber out of his tent with a story about catching birds. But when another mutineer jumped out and the two men tried ambushing their victim, you're gonna hate this, Ed.
Yeah.
Their swords were so blunt that the underbarber was barely wounded.
Barely a scar, barely a touch on me. None of you will ever get as sharp as my razor when I'm cutting in a flat top to a little boy. All right? You'll never get me. I'm the underbarber.
Underbarber, yeah. Well, the underbarber ran away and hid, but luckily, the new recruit wasn't all that jazzed about killing in the first place, and his accomplice was just fucking lazy. So they had a little conversation and convinced themselves that they had mortally wounded their target.
Yeah, he's got to be fun. He's basically dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, and how many places is he gonna hide?
I don't know.
How long do you have to look? It's the size of a football field, for fuck's sake.
They've just killed so many people that they just are fucking over it.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like, we'll get them.
Even that's boring.
Yeah,
now.
well, fucking,
Yeah.
I'm bored of even chasing man.
Yeah, and once the mutineers were gone, the underbarber snuck over to one of the poorly guarded boats and sailed for the Highlands, where Viva Hayes and the other VOC loyalist soldiers had been thriving for weeks.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. On the other island, they're having a great time.
They're having the best vacation of their lives.
Yes, they are eating. They're stock full. It's like all
Listen-
these seals.
Yeah, listen to this shit. I mean, Viva's men had discovered after properly exploring the two islands that every single person who had survived the shipwreck, all 270 people, could have lived on the highlands indefinitely without ever running out of food or water.
Yes.
Viva's men found sources of water so rich they didn't need to ration at all. And each man had his fill of fish and birds and eggs. They said that like all the birds like laid eggs as large as a hen's egg.
You wouldn't even believe.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Ah, God, we were like, I like mine poached.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing.
They even discovered a mammal to eat. There was a type of wallaby called a tamar. Viva's men called them cats. And they were, just like everything else on the highlands, easily caught and delicious.
Love these guys.
Yeah. But that's all to say that while the survivors under Jeronimus' rule were living a never-ending nightmare, teetering on the edge of starvation, Viva's men had found a relative paradise where everyone was chill and the guy in charge was an actual good person.
So if they would have just tried once
If
to
they-
check in on them,
Yeah.
everything would have been fine.
Everything would. Well, I mean, everything would have been fine for the survivors.
Yeah.
Everything would not have been fine for Euronymous. Like, 'cause
Or them, because it really comes down to who wins this fight. If they don't know that there's a fight happening right now, Euronymous has the upper hand because he has all this thing going on, and they don't know that it's happening yet until this moment.
Yep. The tranquility of the highlands was shattered when survivors began showing up from Batavia's graveyard in small groups, because Euronymous had not been able to maintain a tight seal over the 3 islands under his control.
They killed them all.
Yes. Yes. I was wondering what you're going to do with that. 8 survivors had managed to escape the initial massacre on Seals Island by raft, and a further 20 washed up in groups of 4 or 5 from Batavia's graveyard itself, including the underbarber. That meant that people had been showing up on Viva's Island since, like, mid-July. You know, they'd been coming in steadily.
So they had an idea.
They
what
knew
was
exactly what was going on. Every single one of them came on shores like, they're fucking killing people over there, man.
They're going crazy. Well, because also the big thing was that they lit the fires, and Euronymous and crew was supposed to come immediately. When they lit those fires, they were all supposed to come over and hang. Because that was the idea of come get them, bring them back. We're going to ferry this back and forth. And as soon as they lit the fires, I was like, a day passed, another day passed, and they're like, oh, shit's actually very real on that island over there.
Yes, something bad's going down. And remember, they don't have any rafts. They're stuck there, waiting for someone to come get them.
And there's 70 of them
They're at this point over on the other island.
on High Island.
On High Island, at this point, there's 50.
Okay,
But when you include all the people that have come over, like all the refugees from Batavia's graveyard, there's 50 people there. And it soon became clear to Viva Hayes that eventually Euronymous and his gang would definitely mount an attack to keep their piracy dreams alive. But while Hayes found himself in command of 50 people, that outnumbered Euronymous' crew by almost 15 men. The problem was that they had no weapons. Because remember, Euronymous had confiscated everything. He had the swords, he had the muskets. So Viva and his men fashioned pikes affixed to 16-inch iron nails using wood that washed up on shore. And they also made their own homemade morning stars. They gathered lumps of coral to throw and fashioned catapults made from rope and tree branches to hurl rocks. Eventually, Viva's group took to calling themselves the Defenders. And it's with the inevitable war between the two camps, War. And the return of Upper Merchant Pelsar that will finish our series on the Batavia next week.
Fuck.
Yes. And these guys are all soldiers,
These
too.
guys are all soldiers.
These guys are
They're
soldiers.
trained. And these are the best soldiers, too.
Yeah.
Next week, we will get into some of the strategies, but I am not kidding when I say the ending of this story devolves into one of the it's like an action sequence out of any movie.
It's crazy.
Out of any fucking big massive, because this is going to go down to the very last minute.
Yeah. And the epilogue is also insane.
Yes.
Also, I want to say I got you both a present to help us not get into this situation ever.
Oh, okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah,
I got
what you
it with-
got
I
us?
got it with me.
You have a gun?
No, it's nutmeg. It's a lifetime supply.
Oh, wow. Nutmeg.
Thanks.
Finally.
Oh, wow. And it's super warm from being in your
In your
pocket.
pocket.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
took
so-
it to the bathroom with me when
Wow.
I
Great.
Great. You know what's also perfect is I found out that you can get high from nutmeg, but the high is so horrifying that it actually can shatter your brain.
Yeah, that's the reason why nutmeg is still sold in stores. If the high was good, it would be illegal.
Well, we got a long weekend.
Yeah, let's try it. Because you know what's the perfect day to get high on nutmeg? President's Day. Coming this Monday. Go and enjoy it. Go to patreon.com/lastpodcast enough to watch us do this show again and again and again for the rest of your precious little lives. And go on all of the socials at LP on the left, TikTok, Instagram. That's where we do our social promotions.
And don't forget to go. And don't forget, I mentioned the stream earlier on the episode. You can watch our stream live. Last stream on the left. We've been doing it for years. You can watch it live on our Patreon, or you can see it after the fact on our Last Podcast on the left YouTube page. On that same page, you can also find all of the other LPN streams. And if you want to watch those live, you can go to twitch.tv/LPNTV.
Go do it and just know we will see you next Tuesday.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And also, when you're doing the Patreon, make sure you watch this show. You can see our faces. You can see Henry bouncing around as a cabin boy the whole time. It's a lot of fun. Also, we're hitting the road. We're coming for you.
We're
First
hitting
of all,
the high seas.
That's right. This is very appropriate today.
is. It really
because
is.
As of today, you can officially join Henry and I via ticket on as of today, you can officially buy tickets to Crime Wave at Sea.
.com/left. Buy tickets. You can come and see us. Like we are going to. And again, what we talked about Inside Stories, what this is going to be so stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it's ever going to happen again. You do need to come and join Eddie and I. Please save us.
Yes, we will be there. We're going to go to the Bahamas, and then we're going to do the fucking belly flop contest.
Dude, we're fucking
I'm
locked
so
in with you.
excited.
If you come on this cruise, we're locked in with you. So.
I cannot escape. So please check that out. And also, we're going to be in Dallas in a couple weeks on February 22nd. And then after that, Nashville. And we're doing Detroit.
Yeah, we got a bunch of shit.
Toronto and
check it out.
Atlanta. And more dates to come, actually.
More
So-
dates to come very soon.
Very soon. All right, you fuckers. That's on lastpodcastonleft.com. And you guys can go fuck yourselves.
Well,
Loving-
no,
come
no.
on.
I mean, come on, no.
Lovingly.
Lovingly fuck each other
Yeah, sure.
to completion.
If you could.
Yeah.
Hail Satan.
Again.
God, all these people suck. You know what? We heard the word Morningstar a lot today. Hail Travis Morningstar.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
And I
How's that?
hope his body's not used to decapitate a child.